Okay, let's talk about the fear of public speaking. So you've obviously encountered a bunch of people who have probably been afraid of public speaking, who you've been trying to get through that process that you described us. What are some of the steps you take, since you give out all your best stuff for free, of getting people to go from I am scared shitless to I can give a speech in public?
Yeah. So I kind of take into this four-step process. The first thing is that it has to do with working with our self-esteem or building our confidence in who we are, and realizing that number one, it's acknowledge the fear of public speaking, but also be willing to embrace the fear of public speaking. I use the analogy, I always speak in a lot of analogies, okay? And that is like, imagine our place is burning down. Obviously, the first thing you and I are gonna do is we're gonna, run out the door or the window, whatever the heck, for safety. But what does a firefighter do? They run into the burning building because they're gonna put it out. But let's take it a step further. They actually we're running away from fear. They're running and embracing the fear.
Yep.
And so in public speaking, I tell people, acknowledge the fear, yes, but embrace that fear. The other thing too is, in terms of the actual self-confidence, is that, when I say 25 years, what I'm really referring to is that for 25 years, I have been on a personal growth and development journey, reading a lot of positive, self-help books.
You've been self-actualizing yourself.
Exactly. And in my opinion, that's something that is ongoing.
Right.
It's like taking care of our health. I've been taking care of my emotional all Have I been doing a good job every all the 25 years? No. Okay. I've missed many times at the emotional gym, gone to the emotional gym, but being aware of that journey, okay, is very important, because once you believe in yourself, you're confident in who you are in your background, etc., then you are going to be able to project that strong self-image in front of others, whether it's through Google Hangouts or whether it's talking to 1,000 people on stage.
How do you think people get to embrace the fear?
Yeah.
Like how do we run into that fire, especially when it's a fire?
Yeah. Well, it's what I take some baby steps, and let me give you a very simple baby step. And when I mean baby steps, I'm talking about look for small victories that makes you stand out from the masses.
Right.
Because we got to remember, public speaking, a lot of people are afraid. I don't care what your title is or whatever. I mean, you could be the CEO of a company and still be afraid to speak in front of your
Most of them
employees.
are. That's why they pay trainers.
Yeah. Exactly. So a small step that you can take, and I've done this myself, is next time you go to an event, notice how very few people sit in the front row. Maybe it's because they're afraid that maybe the speaker's going to choose them for a question, and therefore the fear of speaking in big audience, okay? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they're too close to the stage or whatever, but just notice that phenomenon. Very few people ever sit in the front row. Early on, I caught on to that, and I said, wait a minute, I'm going to start sitting in the front row. Because by me sitting in the front row, I'm one of the few, and I looked around, sure enough, I would look around behind me, and even people that I knew that are way more successful, way more confident than me, that I've seen them speak, were sitting in the back row. And for me, that little victory of separating myself from the masses, that little gesture was a small victory that helped me separate myself from the masses.
Right.
That is what I mean. Look for example situations where you just notch these little victories, because those little victories, especially for those of us that are introverts, it's a little stepping stone to that next level of building our confidence of doing things that other people are not willing to do.
I agree with you. I agree. When I've coached clients, it's kind of figuring out why they're afraid in the first place, and then getting little victories along the way, and then eventually it all boils down to something good. But it's just amazing to me because humans are social creatures, right? Like we are the only entities that we have knowledge of in the known universe, that probably not the only ones, but the ones that we have knowledge of, that are conscious of our existence, that are even conscious really of our mortality, the fact that, we're eventually going to die one day. And it's like, to me, a lot of the fear of public speaking comes from a fear of how other people perceive you. And that fear of how other people perceive you and the fear of judgment that they'll have when you're on the stage, that they're laughing at me, that they're subliminally judging me, et cetera, fundamentally stops you from being able to express yourself. And the reason why expressing yourself is important is because we're social creatures. It's like, if we don't express ourselves, what is the purpose to this existence at that point, right?
Right.
What is the meaning of any of this? Yeah, so I 100% agree with you. You gotta. That's a really good analogy. Go into the fire. And, you know, usually the reason we hold firefighters in such a high regard is because they went into a burning fire, right? The reason we heard LeBron James into regard is because he's taking the crappy Lakers team as of last year and trying to do something with them, right? Like, he's embracing the problem. And I think for public speakers, your problem is you have an audience that needs to be impacted. You are embracing that.
That's right.
It's amazing. So let's talk